The day was warm and sunny, with scarcely any breeze. He stood out of the sunshine in the cool shade of the trees. A dark, brown-eyed man, trim and athletic looking, well over 2 meters tall. The white people standing near him, to say the least, seemed small. The sad look of nostalgia was in his dark brown eyes. Perhaps his distant village in Sudan, he often visualized, as it was before the war began and he was forced to flee and arrive in this great country as a boat refugee. Good morning, East Africa. This is ArtFlakes. This time around with Felix behind the scene. And today, as you can see from the content of what the poem presented earlier, we're going to be focusing on the analytical contents of Sudanese literature. And with me today, I've got my last guest, Osabo Umar, who will be going deeply into the exploration of only 2 aspects of the genres of literature, the prose and poetry. We can't talk about these 2 countries, the Southern Sudan and the Republic of Sudan, without going deeply into these 2 parts. Don't go away. Welcome once again to ArtFlakes, a show where we talk about everything that has to do with literature, and creativity, not only literature, creativity generally. Today, as we promised you in the previous episode, that we'll be exploring the Sudanese literature. So I'm with the same guest that we had last week, Mr. Umar Osabo. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
I hope you're fully set to now make it hotter than the way you did in the previous show. Because
Sure.
as we have said, we say that Sudan is very hot nowadays.
It's very hot.
Politically hot.
Yes.
Socio-culturally hot.
And even
literally hot too.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be looking at only 2 parts of 2 genres of literature.
Okay.
The poetry and the prose. But we're going to start with the last one.
Okay.
That is the prose.
Okay.
And we're going to focus on only 2 of their writers.
Okay.
One of them is Jamal Magub, Traveling with the Jinn.
Okay.
And the other one is Tayyib Saleh. All right, that is season of migration to the north.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the second one again. I love getting it from the back and
to the
front that way. So today we'll be looking at, we're going to start with Tayyib Saleh's work.
Okay.
So season of migration to the north.
Yeah.
So what can you say generally about this work and the writer himself?
Well, firstly, I would like to say Season of Migration to the North is a very wonderful novel.
Mm-hmm.
It has received so many accolades from Europe,
mm-hmm.
America, and Arab world.
Yeah.
For instance, the Damascus Literary Icon or Association in 2001 considered Season of Tayyib Saleh's Season of Migration to the North as one of the most important literary work of the Arab literature in the 20th century.
Okay.
It is a work that is seen as a link between Africa and the Western world.
Okay.
And is a counter narrative to Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness.
Heart of Darkness.
Well, the story started in the village, in Sudanese village of Wad Hamid by a PhD graduate who just completed his PhD thesis in the West, and he returned to his village of Wad Hamid in Sudan. The narrative or the persona is an unidentified persona, that is the narrator of the story is unidentified to an unspecific or unidentified audience as well. As he was telling the beautiful story, along the line he ran into one person who he saw as a drunk or as somebody who has little or nothing to contribute to the society, by name Mustafa Said.
Okay.
So, but one thing led to another, and he had Mustafa Said reciting a very beautiful poem with Queen's English, the accent and everything. So he began to inquire further who this Mustafa Said is on. So Mustafa now started narrating his history, that his school also in England, and while he was in England, he's this kind of he has this aura of his manners, the way he presents himself, the way he talks, the way he dresses is so appealing, is so suiting to the English women fantasy of Orientalist fantasy. So he had a number of relationships, up to 3. But the unfortunate thing is that each of the relationship always end up in chaos, and to the extent that the 3 women died in the process, and even the last one he got married to, he killed her. So when he killed her, he has to face the music, he has to face the law of England. So he was sentenced to death. So along the line, before he could be sentenced to death, he ended his journey into the River Nile. So meanwhile, his wife, Husna, she was like worried about what has happened to her husband. Meanwhile, her relations were like wanting her to go and get married. They want her to remarry, but she, on her part, she doesn't want to remarry. So they force her into marrying somebody who she does not like, by name RAJWAI. Husna was married to RAJWAI, and she never liked him. Because she never liked him, she never went in with him. So when RAJWAI tried to consummate the marriage forcefully, so she killed herself. So she killed the new husband, RAJWAI, first, and later she also killed herself. So nobody attended their funeral ceremony or stuff like that. So the story now, the unidentified narrator now came back to complete the story, and this time around, in the last part of the novel, for instance, we saw the narrator in River Nile, where he was yelling for help, help me, help me, help me. But somehow the tune of the narration is suggesting that is it not too late for him to have been looking for, or to have been calling for help at this time, and finally the narration ends. So this is in a nutshell, this can be seen as a brief plot summary of Said Talib's Season of Migration to the North.
All right, let's look at this beyond the text now. Now related to the history of Sudan. Look at it in terms of because literature, most African literature, focus more on their colonial, the pre-colonial, colonial, and neo-colonial experience, apart from Ethiopia, that has nothing to do with colonial experience. So other African countries, one way or the other, they have something in common with the West. So how can you relate this? Because you are talking about studying in the West, coming back home, not appearing properly like a normal person, and having the tongue of the West. What can you say generally about this?
Well, generally, the protagonist, Mustafa Said, is seen as a product of colonialism. Not just a product of colonialism, but somehow, to some extent, he is anti-culture of the Sudanese people. So the novel is a kind of link between the West Africa or Sudan to the Western world,
You mean the East Africa, not
Yeah.
West Africa?
So the East Africa, I
Yeah.
mean East Africa
Yeah.
is a kind of a connection, trying
Okay.
to link East Africa, Sudan
Yeah.
to the Western world,
Yeah.
using the main protagonist, Mustafa Said,
Yeah.
as a mouthpiece
Yeah.
to tell his story. Because Mustafa Said has lived in the West and he has returned he returned not the way people expected him to return.
Yeah.
Because on a good day, if you go abroad, you study abroad,
Yeah.
everyone in the community will be expecting the best from you,
Yeah.
coming back to contribute to
Yeah.
the society. But
Yeah.
the opposite was what the people were seeing or have seen from Mustafa Said. So, to look at this text beyond
Just the story itself.
beyond the story itself,
Yeah.
it is telling us that there is a lot about Africa, or there is a lot about Sudan, because in Sudan the history and the manner or the culture of the people does not tolerate the kind of thing they experience from Mustafa. Ordinarily, if Mustafa was or has been in Sudan all his life,
Yeah.
probably he wouldn't have involved himself with the kind of menace or rubbish or dirty activities that is engaging from one woman to another,
Yeah.
and almost all the relationship he had almost end in chaos. Probably he wouldn't have been involved in such kind of thing. And another link one would say, or another way to link the story to the narration of Joseph Conrad, the Heart of Darkness,
Yeah.
is in the area where he's saying, okay, I am not the same as the whites. I am not Othello. Even though I am Othello, I am yet to find my own root in this place. That is referring to the Western world.
Yeah.
So if really what the account of Joseph Conrad about
Yeah.
Africa,
Yeah.
if really is true, why is Mustafa Said, why did he come back the way he did?
Yeah.
If there is anything good in the Western world,
Yeah.
because he actually left Sudan as a good person, as a decent person.
Yeah.
So there is this huge expectation
Yeah.
on him that when he returns, he will bring back good thing to help to the development of his fatherland. But when he
Yeah.
came back, the opposite was seen about
Okay.
him altogether. So, and again, to look at the text beyond the narration,
Yeah.
is it looks at the conflict, the experience, the bad experience of colonialism, what colonialism has done to the people of Sudan, has done to the culture, has done to the political atmosphere,
Yeah.
and even the socio-cultural way of life of the people.
Yeah.
So colonialism in itself is seen just as Joseph Conrad sees Africa in his work, Heart of Darkness.
I want us to look at this from this angle. He says something that I'm going to just call the lines out,
Yes.
and I want you to follow through.
Yeah.
I don't have an African to run away to when my life turns sour. That's Yasin talking.
Yes.
Europe is my dark continent. My dark continent.
Yes.
And I'm searching for the heart of it.
Yeah, this is from the devil of Travel with a Jinn.
Yeah.
This.
We are coming back to that side.
Okay. This is
Because we have to.
yes.
Just
Because
suppose the
actually,
two texts together.
what I feel about the two texts,
Yeah.
Traveling with the Jinn.
You quoted one
And
side, that's
yes,
why I quoted
yes,
the other side.
Travel with the Jinn,
Yeah.
as well as Season of Migration to
Yeah.
the North. They are narrative that are both narratives
Yeah.
are trying to prove to other part of the world that Africa is not what Joseph Cora or some part of the Western world writers think. Africa is far, far, far better than what it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, like in Traveling of the Jinn, Yasin was traveling all from one part of Europe to another by road.
Yeah.
So he sees Europe. He has seen everything about Europe, and he's yet to discover the the heart of darkness,
the paradisical, so-called dream.
Yes, the so-called dream
of the West,
of the so-called dream of the West. He has not seen it.
Yes,
the parasitical setting of the West. So he's yet to see that. So it's a way of telling the way the West that what you feel about yourself, the superiority complex you have about yourself and the way you feel about Africa is not correct. It's not something that people should believe, because African in so many ways are much more better than the English or the West. So in that context, that is what he's trying to tell his reader. But somehow in the novel, the West have this way of defamiliarizing what is truth. They have a way of making you see what is black, white, pink, red, and so on and so forth. So, but he has traveled all over European countries by road, and he has seen it all, and he has seen that Europe is even more darker than Africa, but is yet to see the real darkest part of the European countries. So I think that is why he's talking. I say I'm Othello, but I'm not the real Othello, because Othello is a lie. And stuff like that, when you read the novel, you are going to see.
Okay. Yes. So let's look at the second part that you have explored. You talk about Yasin traveling along every part of Europe. Jamal Maghub has tried in his exploration of his poem too. I mean, of his stories. What you find out is that these two texts, they still depict the fact that Sudanese are travelers. Sudanese are explorers. They explore every part of the globe. You know, but despite that, we can say that whether east or west, home is the best.
Yes, home is the best.
According to
the two narratives, yes.
You know, because when you come back and you start messing up, it means that you have taken a culture that is bad
from outside,
and you are adulterating your society. Based on what you've already got from there.
Yes.
And the issue of not getting a woman married to another person without her consent, you know, is common, particularly in Arab world, the Asian world in particular, Arab Asian world. It is the family that unites people together. It is not most times love. That's why some of them, they elude their area, they move away with their lovers like that, just like Romeo and Juliet in William Shakespeare books. I mean, book titled The Romeo and Juliet. So that is what I found out there. From the part where you have the wife who was forced to get married to another person without her consent, and because of that, the marriage ended catastrophically. You know, so we can look at the culture too, the culture of the Sudanese from that angle. The Arab generally, because they are like African Arabs. That's what we can say, apart from Egyptians. If you are talking about Arabs who are black Africans, as the name implies, Bilad is Sudani, right? So what can you say about the culture of the Sudanese in the two texts?
Yes, to talk about the culture, I need to digress a little, look at some principle that has to do, that helps one or helps us to interpret culture. You see, there are some culture that can pass repugnancy tests, and there are some culture that cannot pass repugnancy tests. Repugnancy test is a test that is based on equity and good conscience. I think from my own point of view, and from what I have seen about the two novels, the culture of marriage, of bringing two people probably who never like each other, who were not in love, probably they don't even know each other, and this family and that family will come together and say, okay, we want Mr. A and B to get married. I think such culture is a barbaric culture. I think not just only the Sudanese people, most part of Africa have it. Even in my country, for instance, Nigeria, there is what we call marriage by photograph. The Igbo people do it. There's what we call forced marriage among the thief people of Benue State. There's what we call kidnap marriage. Maybe when I could remember when we were discussing oral poetry of the thief people when I was schooling in Benue. You know, they have this kind of marriage. If a young person sees another young woman whom he likes so much, if he probably he has been approaching her and she's been saying no to him, you just get hefty guys and they'll just kidnap her, take her to the, not with the intention of collecting ransom the way people are doing it now, but he will keep her inside until after a while. Then he will now come to the family and say, okay, you are so daughter that you've been looking for, she's with me. And the family will not say, okay, go and do this, go and
so
do
in
that.
Africa we have
this culture is all over Africa, so it's not just
only Africa, Asian world.
Yes, Asian world.
All over the world.
So it's not just the Sudan. So I don't think but in most cases such marriages end well. Unlike today, you see a lot of love, and after 3 or 4 months in the marriage, you see them fighting and everybody is going his own way.
So in Sudan, you are saying that, but I'm looking at, based on my experience as far as the Arab world is concerned, it is the family that determines who you are going to marry, particularly if you are a lady.
Yes, I have answered that question. I say yes, it is so, and I've explained why it is so, and I even link it to what is happening in my country, trying to show all the viewers that it is not all the Sudanese people that practice this. So it is in so many cultures. We have this in Africa. It's part of us. Yes.
All right. We're going to move to the last part of the show, which has to do with exploration of poetry.
Okay.
And the poetry is going to be rendered both in Arabic and English. Then after this interlude, we're going to come back to the analysis of this poem.
Okay.
So don't go away. Wait for the presentation of the show, exploration of the poem in detail by our same guest, Mr. Umar Osabo. Thank you.
Are you one of them? I only notice a woman who gets no notice, someone who follows my footstep. I see myself multiply, diving in images, drifting in memories, intuitive exodus. I am blind to boast a navel with light for show. Even when the light graces the treetops, their hearts are dark. I am elusive as perfume, a vagrant gust of wind, and no one remembers me. A grey soak, swallow the sound of a skirt with a silent entrench in a truth. Worms ignore a woman who burns her history while she is born anew. Whoever light off the past, set the future ablaze with a light that will neither burn both nor tend heart.
أأنت منهم؟ ليس كثيرا ما أهتم إلا بامرأة طعمها لا يكاد يرى، إلا بمن يتبع القدوة، إلا بنفسي أراني أتجزد في الأشياء، أروح بينها كالهائم في ذكرى، أقترب من حدس الخروج. ما رأيت مراكب في زينة تبهج ليل العين، رؤوس أشجار إلا من العتمة، ما سكنت إلى ضيف عذر وما بقيت على خاضر. سوق عديمة تبلع صوت الفأس، صمت بلغ الجذور، النمل لا يهتم بامرأة تحرق تاريخها بينما تولد، من أضاءك يا ماضي يضيئوك يا قادم، لا يحرق المراكب أو يلوث القلوب.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoy the Arabic and the English version of the poem. Let's now go deeply into the exploration of these poems. The poem, which is "Are You One of Them?" "Are You One of Them" is an interesting poem by Sadiq Radi. Very nice poem. Anta minhum. That is, "Are You One of Them?" And this, we're going to look at the stanzas. There are just 3 stanzas presented in the poem, and I will hand over that part to Umar Osabo to go deeply into the poem. We have already read that. Let's look at the first stanza of the poem. What is it all about? I only notice a woman who gets no notice.
Yes, I only notice a woman who gets no notice.
What is it about?
Someone who follows my footsteps. I see myself multiply,
Yeah.
diving in images,
We have already
drifting in memories,
Yeah.
intuitive exodus.
Yeah.
You see, the poem is generally from the surface.
Yeah.
It's talking about love. Perhaps there are 2 personal, 2 voices. We can see 2 voices, though one narrative, but the angle to the narration
Yeah.
is that there are 2 voices, and the voice we are hearing is that of love, a woman and a man's love, perhaps, and one of the lovers, let's assume the woman, is not appreciating the man in the way the man is expecting her to appreciate him, considering everything he has done for her,
Yeah.
and just to make her be with him, love
Yeah.
him, which I think is a common thing with most women, or with most modern women. Sorry, some modern women, with
Yeah.
some modern women.
Yeah.
So, but along the line, we see that this love is adrifting, is going further and further in the way and manner the man never expected the woman to be behaving. So at a point, the man was doing, he thought the woman loves him for who he is, not for what she's getting from him.
Yeah.
But he's not bothered, even when he discovered that she's not loving him for who he is, but what she's getting from him. So, but at the end, she's still not appreciating. So maybe that was what brought about the poem. And so we have a voice of regret, lamentation, and all that, trying to ask himself, is this woman not taking me for a fool? After giving her everything, she's getting everything from me.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything to keep this relationship,
Yeah.
and she's still behaving the way she's behaving. When will she change?
Yeah.
When will she come back to her senses? When will she love me for good? When will she be doing all that she's supposed to do to me as a real lover whom I took her for?
Okay, that's why he said, "Worms ignore a woman
Yes,
who burns history while she's born anew.
yes,
Whoever light up the past
yes,
sets the future ablaze."
exactly.
I love that part.
Yes.
Whoever light up the
Yes.
past
I
set
think-
the future
I think
ablaze.
a greater-
With, it continue with that transition. Say, with a light that will neither burn both nor taint hearts.
Yes.
You know. So what can you say about the last part?
Yes.
Next one.
Before saying about the last part, this point is capable of 2 interpretations, because the point is based on irony,
Yeah.
defamiliarization,
Yeah.
shift of attention. All these are technical devices we use when writing poetry. I think to a layman, he will see this poem as a woman and man relationship, but the poem goes beyond mere man and woman relationship. In actual sense, the poem is talking about colonialism. It's talking about the evil of colonialism, the kind of face, the kind of clothing, the kind of makeup the colonial masters came into the shore of Africa, particularly the Sudan. They came with their religion, they came with hospital, they came with clothes, but in return, they are taking much more better things from Africa or from Sudan to their country. So even when the people have started falling in love with them,
Yeah.
the people thought these people were actually in their land for good, not knowing that they were in their land for their goods. So along the line, they begin to see the intrigue, the deceit, and what have you in the attitude of the colonial masters. Because at a point, the colonial master didn't even want an average Africa to be educated. Some of them, they were just training Africans to become messengers, clerk, and all that. But behold, as fate will have it, Africans grew up to become teachers, doctors, and what have you. And when you link this poem, you will
generally it's talking about the West who came in a very attractive way and their resources, but never left anything meaningful to appreciate those that came to meet, to explore their
They
things.
Actually took everything, almost everything the people have to
I
their
think
world,
living because of the time. I thank you so much for exploring this world of the Sudanese. Dear viewers, you can see that things are getting changed bit by bit. When we're talking about the Ethiopian literature, we never talk about colonialism. We talk about their work, their experience, the dogs eating dogs. We enter Djibouti, we discuss about colonialism. Same thing in Kenya, in Uganda, only that we talk about the post-colonial part there. But in Sudan, it's still both the colonial and the new colonial parts. And in the next time you meet us again, we'll be looking at the Tanzanian literature. Thank you for viewing. We'll meet again.